today. Did Francis Ngannou just become the greatest and most sought after fighter in combat sports? Is he a shoo-in for an Oscar-winning movie one day about his story? And what about Dana White? Has anyone checked on him? Is he having heart palpitations? We need to know. All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. Let's go. What's up? What's happening? We right back at it. We right back with it. I'm right up in your grill with another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. First off, let's go ahead. I'm going to kick this show off and do my due diligence. Let's start off first. I would like to apologize to Big Frank the Tank, Francis Ngannou. Now, if you've been watching my content for a long time, he's always been Frank the Tank to me. I was saying that in like my first video. So shout out to Frank the Tank, Francis Ngannou. I do want to apologize. Much like everyone else in the world, except for the trolls online who are trying to act like they did it first. None of us, or very few of us, picked Francis Ngannou to do well in a boxing match with Tyson Fury and possibly even win a boxing match with Tyson Fury. And that is actually what has occurred. So I would like to shout out Francis Ngannou. I would like to apologize to him because much like the rest of the world, I didn't see it coming. I could not fathom that it was going to happen, and it did. And so with that being said, let's break down, let's get into what took place over the weekend. First of all, boxing. We coming for your neck. Protect your neck, son, because we coming for your neck. We talking about MMA, mixed martial arts. We coming for your neck because let's just break it down real fast. Now, of course, this is the heavyweight weight class, that we're going to be discussing on this video. So, the skill level is much different from when you start getting into the lower weight classes with like your Bud Crawfords, I'm talking about, Canelo Alvarez, I'm talking about, you start getting into the lower weight classes, your Earl Spences, your Shakur Stevens. When you start getting down there, Devin Haney, things could get a little graphic, things could get a little rough for MMA. So we're going to stick into the higher weight classes. But one thing I have been saying, when it comes to like the Jake Paul crossover type fights, one thing that I think boxing has been kind of missing on is when we do these type of crossover fights, generally you're getting a mixed martial artist well out of their prime, usually aged out of their sport, or just in a weird position or point in their career. That's not what you're getting with Frank the Tank, Francis Ngannou. However, there are a few things which might show you that Tyson Fury might be on his way out. So let's break it down. Boxing is good for one thing. They're good for a spectacle. Dana White has famously talked about he doesn't really like to spend money on the spectacle. He didn't want to, bring out Sinead O'Connor, rest in peace. He didn't want to bring her out for Connor. He doesn't like doing a spectacle. He rarely wants to let any of his fighters do a special entrance like Israel Adesanya gets or T-City got when he pulled out the Purge mask, which I still don't know where that came from. But nevertheless, boxing is outstanding when it comes to the spectacle. It's something that I wish mixed martial arts would do. And when they put on that spectacle, it gets crazy. So, I mean, here you're like in the middle of Riyadh, they got half of the fights outside of the arena, the other half inside the arena. The ring is being lifted up from a pit in the middle of the floor. I mean, it's crazy, bro. Boxing loves the spectacle. With that being said, what we witnessed on Saturday, you had Tyson Fury, who, while I believe that he took Francis Ngannou seriously. I believe that he did take him seriously. He's kind of playing the whole week. Every time they're doing a face off, he's touching on Francis and stuff. He's kind of playing. He's kind of almost like he's belittling him in a way. Now, this is kind of Tyson Fury's, that's just kind of like his personality, but still, as he's coming down the aisle, or as he's walking out for the fight, he's playing 4 or 5 different songs. He's taking his time. He's dancing. He's shadow boxing. He's walking around. He's trying to be a showman, but at the same time, meanwhile, Francis Ngannou is waiting. He's waiting. He's patient. And it's almost like he knows. And here's the thing with Francis Ngannou. It's almost like he's known this entire time what was going to happen. When he's literally escaping for his freedom from Cameroon, it's almost like he knew one day this moment was going to happen. When he's sleeping on the floors of gyms and everything in France with no money to his name and he's living in parking garages, it's almost like he knew this moment was going to happen. He gets in the UFC. Dana White gives him the keys to the kingdom, makes him the man, says he hits like a small Volvo, I believe was the car he used. You know what I'm saying? He said he hits like a small Volvo. You know what I'm talking about? I used to have a Volvo. Just got rid of it. Shout out, we got another ride. But I'm saying, bro, that they gave him the keys to the kingdom. He goes out there, he loses to Stipe. Dana White turns on him. Francis is not detoured, right? He's still going to continue on. He goes out there with Derek Lewis. He admits he had a little bit of anxiety going into that fight. He was worried about gassing out. He was worried about being embarrassed as he felt he was on the grand stage against Stipe. He goes out there, he loses the fight against Derek Lewis. Since that fight, he hasn't looked back. It's almost as if he knew what was going to happen. He goes out there, he beats the Cain Velasquez. He beats the, he beats the Jairzinhos of the world. He beats, Overeem. He goes out there, he does his thing, bro. Again, it was almost like he knew Curtis Blades, a wrestler, the best wrestler possibly in the heavyweight division in the UFC. It's almost as if he knew what his destiny really was and it was going to happen. So then, he becomes a heavyweight champion of the world, in a fight in which the man only had one leg. His other leg just fell off. He lost his whole knee. He's in there against Cyril Gane, a guy that is known to move around, known to style on guys at heavyweight with movement. And he becomes D1 Francis Ngannou, D1 Frank the Tank, you know what I'm saying? And he beats Cyril Gane, maintains his heavyweight championship title reign. Then he sits out for like almost a year, sits out for a long time. And it's like, bro, it's almost as if he knew. Now, I will say that when he got into the bargaining, he got into the negotiations with the UFC. It wasn't going well. The UFC is turning on him. They're doing everything in their power to demean him to a certain extent. They're offering him large contracts, but it's going to be over the course of so many fights. And I will say that I came on here and I was making videos about, I wasn't sure if Francis Ngannou was making the right decision by leaving the UFC and going to PFL, going to boxing, wherever, because it almost seemed as if he just would have stayed in the UFC, he possibly could have beat John Jones, and he could have lived out the rest of his career as a historic figure in the UFC. That's key to what I'm telling you. So I, again, will apologize to Francis Ngannou because I didn't believe, not that I didn't believe in him, but I didn't believe in the moves he was making. I didn't see the strategy in which he was operating with, as if he already knew what was going to play out, his destiny. So the man goes on. He signs with the PFL. He gets a lucrative deal with them. He gets to be the head of their South African or their African market. I don't really know how that works. Their African division, I should say. He's going to be the president of that. I don't know. I don't know. They're going to build, I guess, a facility for African fighters there. I don't know. And then he's still working on a boxing match, I should say. And he gets a boxing match with Tyson Fury. And again, I'm like, bro. I don't know, Francis. Because it's all so unbelievable. But it's almost as if he knew. And as they're leading up to this fight, you're thinking this is going to play out the way that it always does. We haven't seen anything that would show us Tyson Fury is truly on the decline. Yeah, he might not be the Tyson Fury from, the very first Deontay Wilder fight, but still, we hadn't really seen anything to show us a decline. So you're like, bro, Tyson Fury, I mean, oh my God, bro, Francis, bro. You know what I'm saying? But it's almost as if he knew. So you got all this pomp and circumstance that boxing builds up. And, clearly Riyadh probably foot the bill, cut the check, I'm talking about. They got all the boxing, all the legendary boxing champions. They had MMA champions. Conor McGregor was there. Of course, Usman was there. He walked out with Frank the Tank. You also had Israel Adesanya. He was there, of course. But you had everybody was there, bro. Lil Baby was there. Lil Baby showed up. You know what I'm talking about? He got that bag too. He performed. So it's just one of those things where you're looking and you're just like, bro, this is pretty wild to see. This is pretty cool. But Francis Ngannou, he's waiting in the ring while, Tyson Fury's doing his bag, his jargon that he likes to do. He's, playing and coming out and taking all day and playing all the most random songs in the world. And Francis is just waiting as if he knew what was going to play out. Now, they face off right before the fight. And, basically, as Francis has already spoken about to the media, Tyson Fury tells him it's time to go to school. And Francis is patient and waiting. He's had to deal with the entire world, including Matt, throwing dirt on his name, talking about he made a bad decision, the famous he fumbled the bag, all of these things. And he's just waiting. And he's just patient, almost as if he knew this moment was going to happen. Everyone is against him. The entire UFC machine is against him. And he's just waiting. You know what I mean? And you got to wonder, all the UFC fighters who, watch this fight play out, they see the bag that he's getting. They see the future bags he's going to get, no doubt. And all these UFC fighters have to be wondering, bro, he beat the odds. They have to be thinking that. They have to be thinking that as they're tied down to their contract to the UFC and can't move with freedom throughout the combat sports industry. And they're looking at Francis like he truly is the way that he walked out. He's the king. So let's get to the fight. The fight begins. Tyson Fury comes out ready to put a pace on Francis. Francis is calm. Francis is patient. Tyson Fury. Now, this part, I'm not sure if this is the expertise of Francis Ngannou at boxing or if this was the lack of understanding of a lot of things about boxing. But Tyson is doing his normal Tyson Fury game. He's moving, he's sticking the jab, he's moving, he's sticking the jab. And this is early on in the fight. Francis is not biting on his feints. Therefore, he's not really getting as peppered as guys normally are by Tyson's jab. He's not falling for the feints. He's not falling for the regular traps and setups that Tyson Fury uses on everybody. I'm not sure if that boils down to Francis and his team schooling Francis on what was going to occur. Luke Thomas made a great point that I believe is very valid in this fight, that it looked like what Luke Thomas said, it looked like they spent the majority of their time drilling defense for Francis. Defense against whatever Tyson Fury was going to do. But at the same time, Francis wasn't falling for those feints. He wasn't falling for those traps. And I'm not sure if he wasn't falling because they drilled it, or he wasn't falling for it because he didn't really know it. So he's just standing steady, firm, and ready to fight. And as the fight goes on, bro, you're seeing that he's not going anywhere. Of course, legendary third round. He knocks down Tyson Fury and does a little shimmy, you know what I'm saying? Does a little dance above him. You know what I'm saying? This is like Ali Frazier type stuff. You know what I'm saying? This is like the Rumble in the Jungle. You dig what I'm saying? I mean, not only did he knock Tyson Fury down, but he had swag about it. You know what I'm talking about? Bro, as this fight played out, while Tyson Fury did have his moments, it was almost as if Francis Ngannou knew. And even though he somewhat gassed and he gassed about the 6th round or so, talking about Francis Ngannou, he never wavered. He never left the fight. He came back to go on to win round 8. You know, if you really look at the breakdown of this fight, I think there's definitely a world where you can give I definitely think there's a world where Francis just barely takes this fight. I don't think it's as clear cut as social media would have you believe, but I get it, bro. Francis Ngannou's a hero. So, social media is going to automatically be like, he was robbed, everything. But I do believe, especially with that 10-8 round, I do believe that Francis Ngannou won this fight. Granted, I believe he more than likely probably lost round 9 and round 10. But there's a case where possibly one of those still could have swung toward Francis. And he goes out there, he puts on a show. He did not fall for any of the normal trappings that Tyson Fury uses in most of his boxing matches. And granted, of course, we all know it's boxing. We knew they wasn't going to give him the decision, And it's like, I saw an incredible meme, on Instagram, where they were like, who was the judge that scored the fight that much in the favor of Tyson Fury? And they had Dana White there in the in the Riyadh garb, I'm talking about. He's like, and it's like, bruh, because that judge, he should be ashamed of himself. If you want to give the fight to Tyson Fury, okay, but not by that big of a score. Like, come on, bro, what fight was you watching? Did Big John Fury slide a few hundreds in your pocket and he was like, John, I'm going to try, but your boy lost. So it's like, dog, shout out to Francis Ngannou. And now the world is open for him. It's, again, as I've been saying, it's almost as if he knew, as I repeat myself for the 18th time. But it was just amazing to watch. It was humbling to see. When you know his background, when you know where he came from. Not to say that Tyson Fury hasn't had a wild and crazy, background. But when you're literally talking about a man that had to escape for freedom from where he grew up, it was outstanding to see, all the photos after the fight of him with his family and with his mother. And, I've seen side-by-side photos where they had like him when he went to visit his mother and they were in a hut and she's like cooking in the middle of a hut, basically, a shack. And it's like dirt floors and there's Big Francis chilling, eating with his mother. And now they're the toast of the town and the town is the world stage. And he's there with his mom. That's very humbling. Shout out to Francis Ngannou. And now the world is his oyster, as the cliche goes. Sneaky Eddie Hearn. Oh, sneaky Eddie Hearn got in there. Notoriously a hater of Tyson Fury. Oh, Eddie Hearn gets in there, talks about this, this is a black eye on boxing. instantly pivots to his guy. And it's like, but Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou, that's the fight to make. Anthony Joshua can go out there and right the wrongs of Tyson Fury. Oh, sneaky Eddie Hearn, who didn't want to give Francis a shot against Anthony Joshua. He had the chance to make the fight before Tyson Fury. Tyson was still spinning his wheels. Eddie Hearn had the chance, and he kind of threw dirt on Francis's name. Didn't want to give him that shot. Instantly, Eddie Hearn's like, yeah, what about my guy? Wheel him in here. Anthony Joshua is the man. That's the guy that's going to beat Francis Ngannou. You know what I'm saying? It was like an old scene out of like when you used to see Don King. Like as soon as Don King's fighter would lose, he'd wheel in another fighter. Like, this is the guy. I'm not worried about him. This is the guy. You know what I'm talking about? Bro. And I mean, look at it. Now, when you look at boxing, first off, is Francis Ngannou better than Dillian White? Is he better than Chisora? He might be. Because look at what he did to Tyson Fury. You know what I'm talking about? Or is Tyson Fury just getting washed? I don't know. I don't want to say that. I don't know what happened. But bro, Francis Ngannou can go out there and get major money fights against Anthony Joshua, against Deontay Wilder. Those two fights can entertain him, can satisfy him, while Tyson Fury goes out there and probably gets washed by Usyk. Have y'all seen the clip where when Tyson Fury got knocked down, Usyk's eyes got extremely wide and he's looking around and he's like, because Usyk knew in that moment, it's time to fight now, because I'm about to go out there and do work against Tyson Fury. Now, who knows, but that's what I saw on Usyk's face, and I've thought for a long time that Usyk would probably be the man to beat Tyson Fury. We shall see, But Francis against Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, dig up old Dillian White. You know what I'm saying? Throw him in there against him. It's like these are big fights. As for, the PFL and MMA, I don't know who he's going to fight over there. And frankly, I wouldn't ruin what he's already built up. Yeah, Francis could go in there and wash any of these PFL fighters that they have. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know how many A-caliber heavyweights are available out there that the PFL can bring in that aren't already under contract with ONE FC or under contract with the UFC. But bro, if I was Francis, I'd be making that call this morning, Monday morning, to the PFL like, hey, yo, let's pause. Let's go, let's chill. I don't know if we getting ready to just jump right back in jump back in a smart cage. I'm talking about, I might want to deal with this ring for a while. Because I mean, I wouldn't even take the chance. And I don't know how his deal is structured with PFL, so he might be forced to go in there. But if he is, go in there and beat whoever they got real quick, Francis. But there it is. It's estimated he roughly made a flat rate of $10 million for this fight, but he also got cut in on pay-per-view points. So I don't know. I'm just going to estimate, he's probably going to make anywhere from 15 to 20 million off of this one fight. Who knows what he can get off these other fights, as well as after Fury goes out there and does whatever he needs to do with Usyk. However that turns out, a rematch against Fury would be huge, or a fight against Usyk would be huge. So there you have it, man. Shout out to Francis Ngannou. Shout out to his whole family. Shout out to the Three Kings. I know I'm notoriously not the biggest Israel Adesanya fan, but it was good to see those brothers walking out together. Shout out to the Three Kings, Kamaru Usman, Francis Ngannou, Israel Adesanya. It was great to see. Shout out to everything. Eric Nixick. Eric Nixick might be the coach of the year. You know what I'm talking about? Dewey Cooper. Dewey Cooper out there throwing up the one arm with the finger. Dewey Cooper, bro. Dewey Cooper. So shout out to all of these guys, man, for going out there doing their thing. Shout out to everything, bro. My favorite photo of the whole thing, I know most people's favorite photo is Francis Ngannou dancing over the top of Tyson Fury, which I think that's a cool photo. But the one that I shared is my favorite. It's the look on Tyson's face when he's on the ground. It's the look on Fury's face when he's on the ground, like he realized, like, What did I just get myself into? Yeah, you shouldn't have been playing in all of them weigh-ins and face-offs. You know what I'm saying? That's what happens. So shout out to all them. Shout out to Mike Tyson for, whatever boxing jewels that he gave to Francis Ngannou. Shout out to Teddy Atlas. I saw footage of them he was kind of helping Francis. Shout out to all of them. And somebody better check on Dana White because he might be having heart palpitations. Now, the reality is, I'm just going to say real fast, Dana White's going to get out here. He's going to flex like he's not worried about it, like he doesn't care. And there is a big part of Dana that probably doesn't care because Dana seems to have that alpha mentality, where it's just on to the next one. It's on to the next one. But on some level, he had to be like, bro, I wish I could have got a piece of what went on in Riyadh. He wanted it. You know what I'm saying? If you just would have let Big Francis step out for a second and do that boxing match, you could have got some of his purse like you did Connor. But nevertheless, bro, shout out to everybody involved. It was awesome to see. Once again, I want to apologize to Francis Ngannou because I didn't pick you going into that fight. Didn't mean to throw dirt on your name like that. But as it stands right now, get Conor McGregor out of here. As it stands right now, Francis Ngannou is the most sought after fighter in the combat sports world at the moment. You know what I'm talking about? He's the most sought after guy. Let's put it to you this way. If the UFC wants to do the main event of UFC 300, Conor McGregor versus, what's little buddy's name? Michael Chandler. There's no way that outsells if they could, which I know they can't, but if they could have Francis Ngannou in the main event of UFC 300 against, well, they can't do John Jones, but against any of them other guys, Tommy Aspinall, Sergey Pavlovich, whichever one wins, it doesn't really matter. You put Francis Ngannou in the main event of UFC 300, I'm calling it right now, it would outsell anybody you'd put in there with Conor McGregor. That's at this point in time, that's where the Francis Ngannou stock sits. So I appreciate everyone for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I check you next time. Peace. Go Ravens.